Life itself can't be explained with a novel on a bookshelf. You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my Wicked Winter series. I'm Brooke Makenna, but today's video is going to be about the Samadhi game. Disclaimer, this is going to be very hard to pronounce some of these names, so forgive me if I do butcher them, but I am trying my best. But with this game, is it going to make you less fearful or more? And could this possibly be the new form of therapy? Well, we'll get into it, but by the way, I'm posting 31 days of consecutive content for Wicked Winter this December, so if you enjoy content like this or want to see more of me, then I would love if you would subscribe and turn the post notification bells on. Now let's get back to the story. Now the creators of this game, if that's what you want to call it, are Ding Ru and Huang Weiping. And Huang really got into this entire concept when he was soul searching after he decided that his career as a trader was not really that fulfilling. He said that China made him rich but did not teach him how to live rich, and he felt very lost. And so during this time, he started studying psychology, and he also helped in the aftermath of the 2008 earthquake. He said he went to help, but he was also saved. And at the same time, Ding was kind of doing some soul searching as well. He was searching for the meaning of life. He was hosting seminars where he was inviting people from different religions or different career paths to come and talk at these seminars to kind of figure out the meaning of life. But after 2 years of doing this, he realized that instead of making seminars about it, he could just do something about it. And shortly after, Huang and Ding decided to come together and create the 4D experience of death. But they weren't sure that their morbid idea was going to be well received. In fact, when they went to a hospice to volunteer, they found that death was a very touchy subject and that people didn't even want to confront it when they needed to. They often said that the saddest part wasn't the people passing away, but the family members' inability to move on or to deal with it at all. How they refused to even face death, and that the last days, the final days of a person normally was filled with shallow lies. They found that fear was so overwhelming in these situations. And that's when they knew that they wanted to create this idea into reality. And then they started a fundraiser on Ju.so, which is basically the Chinese version of Kickstarter. And they raised $67,000 in 3 months, which was well over their actual target. They began researching to make it incredibly realistic, and they even went to a crematory where they decided they wanted to be put through the furnace with the flames off. Huang went first, he went through it, and the controller of the actual crematory furnace was so incredibly nervous because he said he was used to putting people through it, but not taking them back out. When it came to Ding's turn, he was so unbearably nervous. He got inside and he didn't think he was going to be able to do it. He got hot, he couldn't breathe, and he thought he was going to die. Like I said, they were doing this to make the game as realistic as possible, and in 2014, it all came together just how they wanted. In September, the Samadhi was created in Shanghai, and it was an experience where the participants would go in and compete in challenges to avoid dying. The losers of this game get cremated, but not really. You're sent on a conveyor belt through the furnace, which is beaming down light projections, and you're feeling hot air, and it feels as though you are really being cremated. And then you are popped out on a round, cushiony, white surface that is thought to be the womb, or your rebirth. But if that's for the losers, then what do the winners experience? Well, they die too, because in their words, everyone dies no matter what they've survived. So they're cremated as well. So it's basically an escape room where you can't really escape from because you are reborn in this experience. So you leave being a different person, it's said. And you may be thinking, who in the world would go through this? But it's actually in very high demand. In fact, it's been put into an amusement park in China called Window of the World. Participants pay $40 to compete in these challenges. Then they're put through the furnace, which is at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. and then they're popped out onto a padded surface that has the sound of a heartbeat playing and has a womb on the ceiling. You see, many more people than you'd think want to or even do fake their own deaths. And this game was said to be created to help with people who are wanting to fake their deaths or even end their lives and hopefully improve their mental health. This sort of thing has been happening in South Korea for years now. They have a coffin academy, which is basically to help people confront the idea of death and hopefully put them off from actually doing anything before it's their time. It's to combat suicide in Korea because they have one of the highest suicide rates in the world. The phone company Samsung even made 900 of their employees over there go through this program. It was a 4-hour session where they would begin by writing out what they wanted on their tombstone to make them realize that they have meaning in life. They then compose letters to their loved ones to make them empathize with them for the grieving that they would have to go through if they passed. And then they're put in a coffin for 10 minutes where they're supposed to realize that blackness, an infinite amount of it, is not so sweet after all. Some are skeptical that any sort of death simulation wouldn't help at all but only make it worse and make people more comfortable with it. And it doesn't seem as though the Coffin Academy has really helped that much, but the Samadhi game has actually helped a little bit, it seems. China's suicide rates have dropped from one of the highest to one of the lowest in the last few years, and it's thought to be because of games like this. And it's different than the Coffin Academy because the Coffin Academy is really trying to make you want to live, whereas the Samadhi game is just making you comfortable with the idea of death when it comes to you. And one of the creators, Huang, said, "I was in a car crash once, and the only thought in my mind then was, why didn't I buy insurance? It wasn't what I had imagined for the final moments of my life. That romantic idea of having a flashback of one's entire life in the last moments before death, that did not happen." And it's thought that the Samadhi game really makes you think about all the things that you want to do before you're going through that experience, but that you're going to be okay once you get to that experience. And the reviews on it are generally positive ones. And many people are thankful that they go through it, although they are having high levels of anxiety and grief throughout the whole process. They feel better once they are rebirthed. But this isn't the only death simulator nowadays. There are actually many more. There's actually another one called Linkson. I'll write it right here because I know I butchered that. But it's also in Shanghai, where the participants have to pay up to $4,000 for treatments. There you walk through rooms where videos of your life are projected on the walls, and voices are reminding you of materialistic possessions and how insignificant they are. And you're going through all day meditation and therapy sessions and fake burials. There is another death simulator as well, and it's called Awaken. And it's not supposed to simulate a real experience. It's actually supposed to help morbid curiosity. When you go in there, you are asked whether you want to die, whether you'd rather sacrifice yourself or somebody else. Then you must explain why, and the person who explains the worst, who gives the worst reasons, are killed. And they as well are put on a conveyor belt and taken into a womb, a latex womb, where they are reborn. And a participant of that one said, "It gives you a chance to calm down and give into some deeper thoughts and think about some of life's problems. When you walk through that door, you will experience changes in your mentality. It will be different from what it was before you entered. And it's around $68 to go inside. Would you? What would you say? Would you sacrifice yourself or someone else? Do you think it would help your fears or make them worse? And what do you think would happen to someone with mental illness going in there? Do you think it would affect them differently? I definitely think it's a good thought, and it's nice that they're trying to come up with different ideas of helping with such high suicide rates, but I'm not sure that you can just go in there and expect your depression, your anxiety to be cured. But if you are dealing with that, I don't want you to think that there is no solution for depression and anxiety. I will leave links down below. There is help for you, and I never want you to feel like you have no hope, that it can never get better. because it can and it will. I promise you. I will leave links down below for you to contact if you need them. And please just know that you deserve to live, and you can see a brighter light at the end of that tunnel without having to exit this life at all. You can continue being who you are, and you can live an amazing life. And I just wanted to add that in there for anyone who is feeling that way, because it's an awful feeling to feel. I know from experience, and please don't give up. But I'm not sure what I think about these death simulators. I do think that we all need to feel a little reborn once in a while in our own lives, you know, a refresh. So I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. And I think the whole psychology of it really interests me. Seeing how you would handle and different people would handle it in that situation, and how your mind would work at that time, and how it would really affect different people is so interesting to me, because I think that it really could help some people. And not only help them, because I think a lot of us have anxiety over death and what happens and what it would feel like. And although it's not the real experience, I do think it could help in that way. And the rebirth, I think, is a beautiful thing that all of us could experience in a positive way. So I don't know, I think that I would almost want to try it and just see how it was. I think the awakened one, where you have to either choose to sacrifice yourself or somebody else and explain why you deserve to live, is kind of, it's interesting, and it would make you really think. Everyone does deserve to live, because in that room you might think, okay, they deserve to live over me, but they're thinking the same thing about you. It's a crazy thing that we all think that either we deserve more than somebody else or we don't deserve more than somebody else. I think we are all so deserving, and it would really make you think about that a little more, and I think that's wonderful. So I don't know, I think it's a crazy, weird concept, but I don't think it necessarily has ill intentions to it. I just think it could be a form of therapy that maybe the world needs. I don't know. You'll have to let me know down below what you think of it, if you would ever try it, or if it would just make it worse for you, give you more anxiety. I don't know, let me know. But yeah, once I read this was a real thing, I had to tell you guys about it. We're all about, you know, the morbid things on this channel, so I hope you enjoyed this concept, this video, and learned a little bit more about it. I mean, I don't know if any of you live in Shanghai, but if you've ever been to one of these, let me know your experience. I'd love to know. And I don't know, maybe one will be made in the US. Do you think that would be a good idea or a bad idea? I'd love to hear your theories about it, about everything down below. And don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay, bye. When death comes to knock, we can't just hope the door is locked.